A dead body is discovered in the sewers of New Jersey, and Mulder is sent to investigate. What seems to be a routine assignment turns into a shitstorm.
Complete with radiation, mutation, and plenty of poop, this episode does not disappoint.
Not happening. This is not happening.
Hello and welcome to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast.
Excuse me, Mr. Skinner. I'm very sorry to interrupt, but Agent Mulder is demanding to see you.
Is there a problem, Agent Mulder?
Yeah, there is.
I'm making an appointment.
It's kind of hard to make an appointment when you're up to your ass in raw sewage being jerked from one meaningless assignment to another.
Excuse me?
What's my next punishment? Scrubbing the bathroom floors with a toothbrush?
You're way out of line, Agent Mulder.
So I gathered.
Fine. Go to my office, Agent Mulder, please. Agent Mulder, will you please inform the room as to why you regard your homicide case in New Jersey as meaningless?
It seemed to me like a simple drugland body dump, not the type of case the FBI normally wastes its time or manpower on.
Certainly, Agent Mulder, given your recent history here, you're not one to judge what is or is not a waste of the Bureau's time or manpower.
Sir, my work on the X-Files...
The X-Files have been closed, Agent Mulder. You will carry out your new assignments and investigate them to the best of your ability. Is that not clear?
Yeah.
And I'll be anticipating your field reports in your current homicide case. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Mike, and with me, as always, is Good Andrew. How are you doing today, Good Andrew?
I am well, Mike. So, does that mean you're the host and I'm the co-host, or are we both hosts?
We are both hosts.
Because we're talking about the host.
We're all hosts in this episode.
And we are all hosts. Oh, yeah. On brand.
Quite
okay.
literally.
Well, I'm doing well. I'm ready to be hosted.
I hope you have a host of notes.
I do have a host of notes. I got a lot of bullet points.
I also have some Hostess cupcakes here.
Do you have Hostess down there? I thought Hostess was a Canadian thing.
Oh, no. We've got them all over the place. At least in Wisconsin and Illinois, yeah.
Does Hostess make potato chips?
No, mostly just cakes and cupcakes and brownies.
Okay, well, up here they used to make potato chips, and they were in these really cool cellophane bags, but that was a long time ago.
I don't think I've ever seen a Hostess chip.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the Hostess Foodstuffs podcast.
That's the change this season, you know?
We are changing directions.
We're focusing on the smells, the tastes of the X-Files.
Yeah.
Especially this
exactly.
episode.
Yeah, and because it's called The Host, it's very much in line with what we do now.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So, if you could not guess, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking The Host, Season 2, Episode 2. And,
Second one.
Yeah.
This is a great season opener. I'm really glad that they led with this episode to begin the season.
I'm so glad no episode came before this.
Yeah, imagine if they blew the season opener. That would really be terrible.
Yeah. I'm glad this is the only season where they open with a Monster of the Week.
Yeah, it's like we're completely forgetting something. Yeah.
Anyway, so, Andrew.
Who wrote this one, Mike?
This one is, in fact, Chris Carter.
Yeah. See, this is it. You should have started with this one.
Should have started.
Daniel Sackheim was the director, though.
Yeah.
He's done some others. Mm-hmm.
Jumping right in, we open on a freighter in the Atlantic Ocean 2 miles off the coast of New Jersey.
Wait.
What?
I have to get a pun in before we start.
Uh-oh.
We've got to make the most of the host.
It is the host with the most.
It is.
It is the most host because he's very big.
I don't mean to boast.
I'm going to go make some toast. Down by the coast, off of New Jersey.
Is it the most toast you can make in the coast?
Yeah. Unless you roast some.
Toast.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not tuned out, we open once again. Off the coast of New Jersey, we see a freighter, and inside we see men speaking Russian. There's a man on ship. He enters the crew bathrooms to an overflowing toilet. We call downstairs to the engine room. They take the call, and the man who answers the phone pawns the job onto Dmitri. Reluctantly, he does it. He takes off the door and shines a light carefully into this tank. It is filled with water. He gets his foot caught in the rail, and suddenly he is pulled in. A couple crew come to his aid, but he is pulled in violently nonetheless. They call to flush the tanks in an emergency. The camera heads into the tank to bubbling water, darkness, and credits. It's a quick opener, but
It is.
yeah. How does this opener strike you?
It's good. I think as a general note, probably somebody at Fox said, okay, the script calls for a lot of sewage here, and that will never pass the raters. You know, it's got to be water. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You are not going to get poop-filled urine past the screeners in this episode, because he opens it up and the look on his face, like his recoiling reaction, tells us everything we need to know about how vile it is in there, right? Yeah. But you look at it and it's like, that's water. There's water coming out of the toilets.
Yeah.
He's looking at water. So you have to use your imagination a little bit.
You very much have to use your imagination. It's honestly a disappointing aspect of the episode, but
in a way, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I don't need to see poop.
I will say, though, like the convention they've set up here is they've given Dimitri the job to clear the blockage because they can't flush the tanks and thus they're overflowing. But then he...
I'm sorry, Ivan must have dropped a Zeppelin because...
He dropped his contact lens. It's plugging up the whole system. Go in there and find it. But somehow, though, he gets pulled in and he's flailing around in there, and they tell him, then the Russian engineer dude who's in charge of him then is screaming out to purge the tanks. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't the blockage still be in there, rendering the operation of purging the tanks impossible?
Well, as he gets pulled in, Dimitri kind of scoops his hand down there at the blockage and
he clears it out.
He clears it out. You know, he's still number one job is, you know.
Yeah, he's going to finish that job.
He's making sure his job gets done before any playtime.
Fair enough.
We cut back from credits to the Longstreet Motel, which I have to say is probably a swing at Harry Longstreet from Squeeze.
It could be.
I honestly don't know, because this is whatever. It's the first Monster of the Week episode of season 2 instead of the first of season 1.
I'll bet you Harry Longstreet was honored to be so named. It's an endearment to name a hotel after one of your directors.
Yeah. Mulder is still wiretapping. He's in the same location he was at the end of the episode that didn't happen. He's playing with sunflower seeds when he is abruptly called away on an assignment to Newark, New Jersey. It's a murder case, and he's surprised to find out that Skinner has requested him personally. We cut to Newark. Mulder arrives on scene. He identifies himself to the lead detective, who immediately calls to have some slop boots brought over, and he is very eager to turn this case over to the FBI. They head into the sewers, all very uncomfortable. They come up on a dead body. The detective tells him there's no ID, and his front is pretty much eaten away. He asks him if he'd like to flip it over, and Mulder says no. He starts walking away, and the detective's like, what do you want us to do with the body? Send it to the FBI, care of Assistant Director Skinner. We can tell by the tone in his voice, he is not happy.
Yeah. My first thought was, why is the FBI here at all?
Yeah, that is one question for the episode, for sure. My question here would be, how did they decide to call the FBI and the X-Files unit? They found a body in the sewer, sure, but, what is it that made them go, this is paranormal?
I'm willing to believe that somebody within the syndicate or the organization, somebody who really wants to rub Mulder's nose in the sewage, found out about this murder and basically told Skinner, you need to send your boy Mulder in to investigate this. Have a little ha-ha.
Here is and they may have planned this, maybe not. My only out for this weirdness is Mr. X, who we will be introduced to. He obviously points everyone in that direction, but, it's weird when you think that he pointed Skinner in that direction. For some reason, it's hard for me as a viewer to wrap my head around that sometimes, which is, where the question initially comes from. How did Skinner get his hands on this? We are meant to, I think, believe that Mr. X has his hands in all of this, and he wants to make sure Mulder gets this case because the X-Files need to be reinstated.
They could be reopened with the successful completion of this case.
Yeah.
I'm willing to buy that, actually. Except there's not a whole lot of information to go on that would even let Mr. X make this conclusion.
Well,
there's a
exactly. So how he found out about it unravels the thing again. So it's like...
Well, he is super cool. So I'm willing to
cool.
believe that he's got
wait.
the nuts to figure this out.
We cut back to the FBI. Mulder is there. He's pacing. He's trying to get into Skinner's office. Skinner's assistant comes out, and she shuts the door. She runs interception, but Mulder pleads, and she relents. Reopening the door, she tells him that Mulder is demanding to see Skinner. Perhaps sensing the hostilities, Skinner tells him to make an appointment. It's hard to make an appointment when you're up to your ass in raw sewage being jerked from one meaningless assignment to another. That is how you talk to your boss, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's how you advance in your career.
I mean, okay, assuming the legitimate work he's been assigned to is jerk-off work, this is Mulder just not doing his job, right? A murder case for the FBI is not good enough for him.
I think Mulder legitimately sees this as a little bit of rubbing your nose in it. Like, I think he thinks he's being fucked with.
He does state that in a future scene, but it's interesting. I like to joke that how dare they ask him to do actual meaningful police work.
Yeah. But he does say, look, this looks like a body dump. A drugland body dump.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you wasting the FBI's time with this, much less my time? I get his point of view, but what I love about this moment is that he thinks that Skinner's just blowing him off with make an appointment, but there is in fact a meeting full of people in the office that he's barged into.
That's so good. He refuses to let it go, so Skinner invites him in.
Yeah.
Will you please tell the room why you regard your current assignment as meaningless, to a room full of superiors listening into this whole tirade that Mulder's gone on. So he is 100% biting his tongue right now. He has successfully put his foot in his mouth.
But Skinner tells him basically get back on it.
Yeah. My favorite line in this is when Mulder says this isn't something the FBI wastes their time on, Skinner just says, you know what? Given your recent history here, I don't think you're one to tell us what we waste our time on or not.
Yeah, it's a nice rejoinder.
It's like, damn, Skinner's coming in hot.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot of good stuff in this season.
Yeah, he sends him out and he says, I anticipate reports on your current homicide case. Mulder leaves. Nighttime, Mulder's sitting at the pier. He's on a bench and Scully approaches and sits down. It's an awkward meeting. She heard about his blow up with Skinner. He says it's hard to smile through it when they ask you to bend down and grab your ankles. Again, legitimate law enforcement work is akin to anal exam or getting plowed from behind unwillingly.
Again, it's not legit.
I know.
Because the FBI wouldn't investigate this case. Unless they know it's an X-file. Like, when this first happened, I thought, is there a part of this where Skinner somehow knows that there's an X-file-like component to this, and he has cherry-picked Mulder to investigate it because he knows for the good of the case, they're going to need somebody like Mulder in it to actually do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody with his instincts and background. Like, he's the right person to do this. But if that's the case, you don't send him in there blind. You send him in there with your suspicions that, look, the X-Files may be closed, but this thing is happening, we can't explain it, and we need somebody like you to go in there and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, you may have to walk through raw sewage to look at a body. Good luck.
I think it is a matter where Skinner's hands are tied. Okay. This is drawing a lot of conclusions at this point in the series. For new watchers, new listeners, I think there is an element of Skinner genuinely wanting to help Mulder because he does, in some capacity, believe in his work. But at the same time, he has to keep up that guise of being 100% a puppet of CSM. They get into a conversation later on in the episode where Mulder says, you had a pair of agents who can handle this. but
Yeah.
Skinner looks, kind of, I understand what you're saying, but, we all take our orders from someone. So I think he's like treading that line of, I want to help, but I can't help too much. And if I bring you in here and have a meeting about it, and one, it's going to give away that he's kind of standing that center line where he can help or not help. But two, I think it's
He's
a
got
little
his
more
part to play.
blatant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're just not ready for him to pick a side yet.
Oh, he's more interesting when he's on the fence.
Right. So it is here on the bench with Scully that we learn that Mulder is actually considering leaving the FBI because he's being hindered or, asked to work, one of the two. Scully is shocked. She says he should request a transfer to behavioral at Quantico, where she is. They don't want us working together, and right now that's the only reason I can think of to stay, Mulder says. She begins to inquire about the body, and Mulder pushes back. She wants to kind of get his mind off how heavy he's thinking right now and get his mind on the case. As much as Mulder pushes back, he says it's nothing, it's just an exercise. And she comes back with the truth bomb. There's a dead body, isn't there?
You can't
again,
dispute that.
Come on, Mulder.
Yeah.
Do your
Gotta
job.
give it to her. All right. My issue with this particular scene is, didn't we just have a whole episode which has reestablishing Mulder's motivation and re-energizing his commitment to do this?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't recall this episode.
There may have been something that happened before this, but I can't. Makes so much sense to follow on from the season finale of Erlenmeyer Flask. If you brought it up here, he's been sidelined. He's been doing this useless wiretapping for so long. Now they give him this jerk off case. Yes, he's interested in leaving the FBI. This makes so much more sense here. But you've had this whole red herring of little green men to wade through beforehand.
I would have appreciated some sort of, I don't even know how they would do it. If it were the first episode, I agree with you, it would be better. But at the same time, I think we needed some seasoning of what he's actually been dealing with while the show was on a break. So I don't think there's enough here to warrant this kind of reaction without something coming before it. Again, I am with you that this would be a better season opener, but there's still a lot of questions even with that.
I believe we have made our point clear that this season 2, episode 1, not great. Yeah.
No. We cut to an autopsy. Scully unzips the body bag and covers her mouth, telling us immediately this body is rank.
1994, no masks. It's all good.
No masks, no problem. She begins the autopsy as usual. It is an adult male. Advanced tissue decomposition. There is a tattoo on his right arm. She lists off all the info and begins with the Y incision. This is the first autopsy of the season, and I have to say, it's the most in-depth one we've seen so far.
Yep, going in for cracking the ribs, though. That was definitely a moment there. The music behind
I was
this
just going to say,
is,
Mark Snow.
So good.
Deep and haunting score. It's setting the stage, but we as viewers at this point have no idea what to expect. As she investigates the liver and it starts to feel a little routine, a disgusting gray worm bursts out and slithers around. She's taken aback, and we cut back to Newark. Some workers are headed down into the sewers for a day's work. One lucky soul gets to walk around in the shit water. He walks...
You mean perfectly clear water?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
He walks to a grate in one of the channels and begins removing blockages, but there's a huge hole in the grate. When he removes the giant log, he is suddenly attacked by something under the water, and he starts calling for help and being thrashed around. His coworker comes to assist and throws him some rope. The man grabs on to the grate and manages to then grab the rope and get pulled to safety. As he lies on his stomach, his friend immediately notices that he has a massive gash on his back and goes to get help.
Now, are we supposed to make something of that hole in the grate? Is that a hole in the grate made by our villain?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's, if it's not made by him, it is his method of getting from one place to another.
I don't know how it's chewing through metal grates.
Yeah, I mean that might be what they're saying. Yeah, but yeah, okay. I think it's his method of transportation is getting through these rickety old decrepit grates and blockages.
And the grates are just, like a 32nd of an inch thick. Just swipe your little claw hands through it. You take it right out.
Yeah.
I'll go with that, sure.
From commercial, we open in on a man's eye. We're at Middlesex County Hospital. The worker who was just attacked is being treated by a local doctor. He complains about a taste in his mouth, and the doctor is Mrs. Budahas from Deep Throat.
Oh, Zoom.
Boom,
This is
boom.
going back.
Yeah. Also, episode 2.
But she's wearing glasses now, so we don't recognize
Yeah, we don't recognize her.
Yeah.
She's got glasses.
This is Agent Mulder of the FBI.
Any idea what attacked you?
Yeah, I've been thinking it might have been a python.
A python?
Yeah, or a boa constrictor. Somebody probably flushed their pet snake down the toilet. Found an alligator in the sewer a couple years ago. Stronger than hell, I'll tell you that. Clamped onto me like a vice.
Mulder,
Mulder, it's me. I need to see you. I've got something here I think you should know about.
what is it?
Some kind of parasite in your John Doe. I'm having it looked at, but I should know more by the time you get down here.
Well, I'm up in Jersey. I should be taking the shuttle down in about an hour.
When can I get out of here? Just like to go home.
Oh, excuse me, sir. Scully, this is a bad time for me to talk.
Mr. Mulder,
Yeah.
I think you should know you have a friend at the FBI.
Who is this?
Of course.
Useless call.
Useless call. Another one of those bogus calls.
Very self-serving. He's like on his little notepad, call Mulder to tell him he has a friend.
This
He
is...
makes the call and then scratches it off his note list.
You just see him scratching off lines of dialogue. Each line is a different call.
Yeah. Next line, demand Mulder to do case right.
Do not fail. Click.
Do not fail. X-Files must be reinstated.
Say this while swiveling in chair. Check.
Oh, yeah. Seen from behind.
Okay. So we are back at the academy where Scully is doing her autopsy. Mulder arrives. Scully asks him to close the door. She shows him the worm, and we all get pangs of ice. I don't know if you did, but I did.
Yeah.
Seeing the worm in the little jar
Yep.
is Turtleria, a fluke worm. It attaches
It's better-
itself. I'm sorry?
It's a better prop, though.
Yes.
Worth saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there was computer last time.
Yeah, it was pretty bad last time.
1993 computer, ladies and gentlemen.
Ew.
It attaches itself to the bile duct and was feeding off the liver. Mulder makes a sushi joke. She goes on to say it was likely contracted in the sewer, but it's unlikely that a single parasite could have possibly killed a grown man. But there's no other discernible cause of death. They attach themselves via a scolex, a sucker mouth with 4 hooking spikes, and Mulder immediately shows her a picture of the gash on the sanitation worker, and she's taken aback by the suggestion this bite could be from a fluke worm. Mulder asks boyishly, how big can these things get? She pauses and for a moment reminisces about the old times. It's been a while since they've really worked together.
I really like that moment, though.
It is cool. She clarifies that flatworms are parasites. They live in the host. They don't go around attacking people. And Mulder jokes, good, because I didn't want to have to tell Skinner. His suspect was a giant blood-sucking worm.
The information that 40 million people are infected with flatworms worldwide, thank you for giving me a new nightmare.
Right. This is disgusting.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, always cook your steak with a thermometer.
Yeah. And do not submerge yourself in sewage under any circumstance.
Yeah, don't go in shit water. It's too much.
Although, if you're in the episode, all the water looks quite clear, quite sanitary.
Yeah. Not at all what my toilet looks like after Chinese.
No. What it looks like right now, in fact.
Mulder pauses for a moment and he says he's got some air to clear with Scully. I don't know who you talked to, but he'd prefer she not launch a campaign in his favor. She's taken aback. I haven't talked to anyone. He says, well, someone called me today. Uh-oh. So we know it's not her who was on the other line.
There's a new player in town.
Yeah. We now cut to the shower. The sanitation worker is getting ready and he brushes his teeth. There's a lot of toothpaste on this toothbrush. He starts squeezing it into his mouth. As he leans in to spit, he begins gagging and spits out some blood as well.
Probably nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about. Just go about taking your shower. He begins throwing up a little bit more blood, and a sting from Mark Snow. A worm pops out of his mouth and slithers down the drain. Yuck.
Yeah.
That's disturbing.
Yeah. That's a pretty gross one.
Yeah.
And as we learn later, he's going to die off screen.
Yeah. From here, we go to the Newark sewage processing plant. Mulder is meeting with the supervisor, who is Ron Salve, and we will see him again in Teso dos Bichos, the much maligned episode from season 3.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Don't. This man's adorable. His glasses give him the big eyes. It's amazing. Anyway, he shows Mulder a large map of the entire system. All sewage comes through this plant. Mulder shows him the worm. The man's not surprised. Anything could have been bred down there in the sewers. We cut to a different section of the plant. A man is doing his routine checks. There's a cigarette break. He hears some splashing in a tank nearby. He goes to investigate and sees what looks like the back of something swim by. He immediately calls for the supervisor. Luckily, Mulder happens to be right there on time.
Yeah, he was in the right place right time.
Tell me about it. They run to check, and the worker has this anomaly in a section of pipe, and he's got it there. Surprise, everyone. It is Darren Morgan in a tube. When he's not writing AAA award-winning scripts, he doubles as a shit monster. But actually...
He needed the money.
Yeah. Actually, it is a human-sized creature with a large, round, red mouth with a scolex, much like Scully described. Disgusting.
Yeah, this is one of their better monsters, you know. And to their credit, like the plot will explain its origin in a pretty satisfying way.
Mm-hmm. I like
it's
it.
not magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really it's well explained and well presented. And what I really love is that we're halfway through the episode and they've already caught the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's very much not according to the usual format.
And they need to. And I like that because of the ending, the twist at the end, you know, where the origins of this creature and whatnot. I think this is one of those episodes where they have caught the bad guy. Much like Tombs, it gives them time to investigate the creature before the second act.
Yes.
So we cut back from commercial. Scully is doing a profile. She's reading about the worms. She notes the size of the bite on the worker and excludes flukes simply by the sheer size of it. Someone then slips a paper under her door. No one's there. She reads it. It's a tabloid. She finds a note about a ship with the headline, "Monster on board?" She notes the Russian connection and clicks back to her computer to the photo of the man's arm. Mulder then calls. The fluke you caught must have been the runt of the litter.
Waka waka.
He's got jokes.
Yeah. He's got a lot of jokes in this episode, actually.
We jump back to the processing plant. Scully's now there, and Mulder's showing her a dark room where he points her to a corner with a large pipe, and behind it we see a crouching creature, human-sized, and she is absolutely floored by the size of it. It's got primate physiology, but with fluke-like mouth, essentially.
Yeah.
It's all white, very disgusting and slimy.
The scene that's missing here would be quite interesting. The scene where they flush the creature out of the sewage line.
And kind of cattle prodded into this room.
Well,
Shh,
no.
no talking. Get in there.
Because they then put cuffs on it, read it its Miranda rights, throw it into the back of the cruiser, and then escort it downtown for its booking, an arraignment, and take all of its personal effects and put them in a plastic bag, and then put them in the room.
Do you think he has a wallet? He's got all those fluke children.
I think he's got a little fanny pack. I think that's what works.
Mrs. Fluke with a bow on her head.
Yeah, some Polaroids in a wallet, in the fanny pack, subway tokens, penicillin.
I'm really trying to come up with like a pun on a MasterCard or something. I can't do it. There's nothing.
There's nothing there.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So Mulder asks about the body in the sewer and needing his identity. Scully then says he was a Russian. She made the connection by the tattoo because of the tabloid that slipped under her door. I guess you really do have a friend in the FBI, Mulder.
Yeah, do you think that it was actually Mr. X that shoved the magazine, the tabloid, or was it a minion?
I have to believe it's X, because you want this kind of breaking in the syndicate chain as quiet as possible, I would think.
True. Yeah, if you want a job done right, you do it yourself.
Yeah, he does have people he works with, in later episodes, but at the same time, they're not, his motivations aren't necessarily clear to them. So I don't really know that anyone knows he's defected. I want to believe, pun. That,
you want to believe?
Yes, so that
drink.
It is, in fact, Mr. X pointing everyone in these directions.
Good. I'm in.
Scully takes a brief moment to tell Mulder that she would consider it more than a personal loss or professional loss if he decided to leave. Oh,
that's so sweet. Does she put her hand over his and stroke his hair at this point?
She strokes something. They're using the bed in the Fluke's, little cell there.
Yeah. Hey, are you using that? No, you're just going to tuck away behind there? Okay, cool.
You stay there.
Stay there.
There's no way you'll prosecute this.
The Justice Department has asked the suspect be transferred to an institution for a full psychiatric evaluation.
This is not a man. It's a monster. You can't put it in an institution.
Well, what do you do with it, Agent Mulder? Put it in a zoo? It killed 2 people.
2.
The sanitation worker who was attacked was found dead in his home as a result of his injuries.
You had a pair of agents that could have handled a case like this. Agent Scully and I might have been able to save that man's life, but you shut us down.
I know. This should have been an X-file. We all take our orders from someone, Agent Mulder.
It catches Mulder off guard.
There's a lot to unpack in this scene because how do you prosecute this villain?
You don't.
It's a very interesting question. It was brought up a bit with Toombs, where again they actually succeeded and arrested a bad guy. Now with Toombs, he
looks
more
human.
Yeah, he's more human presenting, so you can do that, and they do. They actually get somewhere with that. With this creature, not so much. I think sending him to the institution to be assessed and answer this question is the right call. Absolutely. I mean, Mulder has seen the end effect of this, and he can legitimately call it a monster and probably be correct in that assessment. But from Skinner's point of view, absolutely the right call, I think.
I mean, an assessment certainly is in order, but at the same time, I don't know, the prosecution angle of it just doesn't ring true to me. It's definitely bureaucracy. Like, I could imagine someone saying this, but yeah, it
wouldn't be prosecution to be like, this thing's not going to ever see the light of day again. It's always going to be in a place where it gets studied and
science experiments.
The other aspect of the X-Files, whether this should have been an X-File, this little righteous anger that Mulder is nursing about how if we had been assigned to this case earlier and it was an X-Files, we could have saved that man's life. Really? I'm not sure that's on point.
It's a micro argument because there's a lot of times where they don't save anyone's life. They're just there for it. And you could say that about law enforcement in general. They don't really prevent the whole lot of crimes. They're there to avenge the victims. Yeah, I think his argument is more, had the X-Files not been closed down, we may have been able to catch this case earlier or been on it immediately and be all over it and assess the injuries and be able to study it much better than Mulder can do on his own, is probably more of what he was going for with that. It's a loose argument, but
it's a bit loose because, frankly, he's done pretty much whatever he wants to do in the course of investigating this case, and so has Scully. Mm-hmm. Like, whether it's official or not, they've basically been reliving old times, and I don't think they could or would have done anything differently. Maybe they would have had access to more resources. But I think it's a bit of a low blow for Mulder to say, I would have solved this earlier if the X-Files were still active.
Yeah, I think the only thing really on Mulder's side in this argument is time. Because if you think about all the traveling each one of them has had to do separately, they probably wasted a lot of time with that. So I'll give him that. But again, I am with you very much on the fact that
it's a quarter point.
Yeah, would you really be able to save this man's life?
I do love Skinner's ending note,
Yeah.
but they all answer to someone.
It's a big,
says
big
a lot.
line.
Yeah.
I like it. It's ominous.
I do too.
And it
Yep.
puts the motivations of Skinner, if you weren't unsure already,
Yeah.
kind of on the line here.
Very much.
The creature is now being transported via gurney into a U.S. Marshal's van. There's a short time cut. We're in the ambulance, or the van. He's just kind of lying on the gurney as the trip goes on. The driver, do you recognize him?
I knew you would tell me, because I did, and I was like, oh, I'm not even going to bother looking it up because Mike's going to just tell me.
Well, he's in several episodes, but you probably know him best as Buddy in Chinga.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Well, again, he's got a giant handlebar mustache in this one,
Yep.
so how would I recognize him?
He's driving along. He looks back and notices that suddenly the creature is gone. He calls for backup and pulls over. He grabs the shotgun he has on the passenger seat and exits the vehicle. Slowly, he heads around the back of the van and opens the door. The gurney's empty. The damn thing is just sticky and wet. The man gets in, looks around. He hears a sudden hiss. The camera cuts away and we hear him scream and a gunshot. The camera pulls back on a crane to reveal a neon sign that says live bait. Ooh, what a joke.
Yeah, and this isn't my favorite scene. I think this is possibly...
It's weak
The worst part
because
of the
where the
episode.
fuck did it go?
Well, I have no problem with the outcome. I have a problem with the setup.
Yeah.
I guess what they painted themselves into the corner of catching the bad guy early and needing a place where they can then renew the threat.
Right.
And obviously the bad guy has to get away. But this execution just paints this character, this ambulance driver, as the stupidest fucking character in all of law enforcement.
Yeah.
I mean, the answer, when you look back and see your bad guy has escaped his bonds, is you just keep on trucking to where you were going. Because you know there's
Really?
going to be 20 cops there. What, he's going to
Yeah.
smash his way through into the cab?
I think so. I don't know. If I were in that situation, I would be, pull over and something's wrong. I mean, I'm not discounting at all what your take is. I get that and I understand it. I don't know how far away he is from those 20 cops, but
Oh, put him in the middle between start and end. I don't care, but like literally.
All right.
And the other thing is, he says, "I'm requesting backup," and then he stops and gets out. It's like, well, where is your backup gonna go? You want to give a location there, Buster? I mean,
that's true.
it was not a great line. And then to go into the back, it's like, come on.
Go into
and you're
the
looking
nest.
around. You're looking around for where the bad guy is. It's like, oh, where's he hiding? In a box? He's under the gurney. It's
Well, that's probably my biggest complaint is that he gets in, number one, but number two, where is it? Because they do show the bottom of these beds, and it's like it doesn't look like he can go anywhere, but they definitely pan down to up, and it's like I don't see anything. So where the fuck did this thing go?
Well, it's camera trick. The thing's
sure.
not in there at all.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So we're meant to believe it's just so well hidden that we can't see it.
Yeah.
But I just think the whole premise is flawed. Like,
Yeah.
And it can be explained with a little bit of, he's not the smartest cop on the force, right? But it just doesn't.
This is your
track
moment,
well for
Bob.
me.
This is your moment.
That's right.
Grab the shotgun.
I can do this. I can do this. Whatever you do. And like fade back, little dream sequence. Bob, whatever you do, don't let the suspect get away. Okay, Grandpa. And then he goes in for his moment.
This is your big moment. Don't fuck it up like you
then
did
he
your
fucks it
first
up.
3 marriages. This is all I got.
Yeah. I live for this job. One day I'll see action.
One day I'm going to be chief.
Yeah, I'm not loving it. But okay, so the bad guy has to get away.
Mhm.
Okay with that. There could have been you know what I would have even gone for? We've established that this creature can cut through a steel grate in the sewer somehow.
Just kind of break the
With
window
his-
and slither out.
Or, break through. Like our driver's trucking along. He glances back. He sees the gurney's empty in his rear view. He He goes, what? And he looks back, and then the creature's there at the window, and he smashes through, and he grabs our driver, and the ambulance swerves, and then it smashes into a tree, and it's just the horn. Bing! And then the back opens, and the thing slithers out. I would have gone with that, and that would have been fine. But this whole business of stopping the car and ignoring every horror movie rule and getting yourself killed.
Not the best scene.
Lazy writing.
Yeah. We notice now that the camera's showing us that this is a campsite nearby. We get some porta potties, and we see the camera creeping low to the ground, and we see something enter one of them. The camera goes in and then into the toilet to reveal the humanoid fluke's face. You.
Inspiring a generation of fear of porta potties.
You know what? I already hate porta potties, and then after this, it's like, no, thank you. The thing's gonna be sucking my ass.
When the camera started to go down into that porta potty, I thought, I have seen into the abyss of the porta potty, and there is no way they're gonna show me what that actually looks like down there.
This was their chance, man.
This was their chance to get an X rating, because my God, what they actually show us is the fluke, of course, and it is a cool shot.
Yeah,
and just like, oh my God, this is so wrong.
We fade to morning. A porta pumper backs in, and the worker gets out to do his job. He lugs the giant hose to the porta potty and starts the motor. At first, everything seems okay, but then the hose begins to make make a weird noise. Someone
chugging, would you say?
Yeah, chugging. Someone dropped a big one. The camera.
Yeah, this is the world's largest turd.
The camera slowly follows the hose from the porta potty tank directly into the tank, implying the movement of the fluke. Mulder arrives at the U.S. Marshal's van, the crime scene.
Wait.
What's up?
The size of that pipe.
Yeah, I know. I've got it in my notes.
I say no, sir. No way.
Not a chance this happens.
Yeah.
Especially the fucking end of that hose. It's even narrower than the actual tube is, but yeah.
Although they did play fast and loose with Toombs in his sequel episode when they suggested he could get through a household drain stack, get up a toilet. So
that is a worse sin than this one.
Yeah, I mean, at least this hose is somewhat beefy, but
yeah,
and also the complete lack of interest by the worker. Like, it must be a human body that he's sucking up out of there.
He just begins like shaking it. Oh, someone's got a big one here.
Whoa, this is going to really slow down my day. I got to get this thing done.
Oh, man. So Mulder arrives on scene at the U.S. Marshal's crime scene. He sees a poop tanker drive by, but doesn't think anything of it. He gives orders to the detective stating this thing will do anything to get back underground. He then gets a call. Success in your current assignment is imperative. Reinstatement of the X-Files must be made undeniable. Ooh. He's got no time to ask questions as he's hung up on again, and the detective is getting a radio about police dogs tracking a scent to the porta potty nearby. But there's nothing inside. Mulder immediately puts it together. He's on the tanker truck.
Do you think Mr. X had another line item on his notepad that says, tell Mulder to do case right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then he like scratches it out as he's done it next to the phone.
He's given himself a gold star on his lapel every time.
And then after that, it's like pick up dry cleaning.
He accidentally reads that to Mulder. Pick up dry cleaning.
What did you say? Nothing.
Don't forget to thaw the ground turkey for dinner. Shit! I wasn't supposed to say that.
Is that the loud part soft and the soft part loud?
We're back at the sewage processing again. Mulder rushes inside. He's talking to the supervisor once more. They're talking about dumping loads and how many he's got. Everything gets processed through here, so if he's not here, he will be. Could this have escaped through an outlet to the ocean? The guy says no way, so all we can do is wait.
I would like you to remember that is the convention they're setting up here. That the creature's getting dumped into this little pond, and that there is no way, Mike. There is no way it can escape.
Not a chance. Not
a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get a short time cut. It's later in the day. Mulder's meandering about looking at the tanks for any sign of the intruder. He takes yet another call. It's Scully. She says, "You're not going to like this, but the fluke in the corpse was an incubating larva. It's trying to reproduce. We got to find this thing or there will be multiples." Mulder gets called away by the supervisor. They've spotted something in a section of pipe. They take the car to the other end of the plant and rush in. Mulder goes in first. He reacts to the smell and lights his flashlights.
Wait, so just to be clear, the creature escaped their tightly knit plan of filters and...
I don't know if he escaped. I think they just located him in some of the pipe.
I'm led to believe that this is because a lineman spots something in an older section of pipe. So, somehow our monster skipped through, and maybe he cut his way through because he can do that.
Yeah, he had to.
I just take issue with the idea of setting up the convention that the monster will be trapped in this series of filters, and then you, for the purposes of creating a dramatic set piece at the end, you completely upend that and forget it.
Okay. I don't think I ever took it that way, but you might be right. I always viewed it as just this is the older section of the plant, and he happened to be dumped there. Or
so it's a different plant than before? Because
I think it's the same plant. It's like just the opposite end of wherever they are. I don't think
I'm willing to give it a pass just because I like this episode better than Little Green Men. But the issue I have is largely the halfway through the episode they catch it by simply waiting for it to get. What did he say? He backflushed the system or something, and then he traps it, and we get to see our monster for the first time. And I just thought, you've established that that's how you can catch it. So why isn't that happening again? Like, why are you dumber now? And it gets away from you. But
I don't know. Maybe it is because this is the older section of the plant. And
willing to give it a pass.
I don't know.
It's the older section of the plant.
It's a valid point that you are making. So yes, they both search. They find the overflow pipe that leads to the ocean. Mulder asks to shut it just in case, and the supervisor tries, but it's rusted. The supervisor struggles just a little bit, slips, and falls into the poo water.
You know as soon as you walked over to close that gate. You knew he was going to fall in.
He has to fall in. We got like 5-7 minutes left in this episode. There's no way this is just going to close. Conclusion. Episode's going to be wrapped up nicely. No.
Yeah.
No, that guy's going in.
Yep. Takes a header into the perfectly clear water.
Yes. He appears all right in the water. He stands, but then suddenly gets dragged underneath. Mulder draws his gun, and the man pops back up for a moment, screaming for his life. Mulder offers help, but can't get to him before he's pulled back. Without any options, Mulder himself jumps into the shitwater. The man is nowhere to be found for a few moments, but suddenly pops up again. Mulder grabs him and brings him to safety. He spots the creature.
Why? Why, Mulder? Why you jump in there? Why? Why, Mulder? Doesn't make any sense.
It's an X-File, so he will go above and beyond to do his job. Yeah. Now, if this were just a regular man getting murdered, he probably might just, I'll look for a pole.
Well, and we've already established that the laws of physics don't apply to his gun, so he's not willing to risk shooting. Might not work.
Yes. Mulder spots the creature trying to crawl out through the gate, and he dashes over to grab the gate lever. Finally, the rust releases, and it slams down on the fluke, cutting him in half. Crisis averted. So we fade in at nighttime. Again, Mulder is on another bench, the same bench. Scully arrives, and they share a similar conversation. He shares the words of his anonymous friend. She shows him the lab results of the fluke, the reproductive and physiological cross-trading that went on. This thing was quasi-human. How does this happen, Mulder asks. And she says, radiation. Nature didn't make this thing, we did. She then hands him some photos from the meltdown at Chernobyl. They're horrifying pictures. The creature came off a decommissioned Russian freighter. used in the cleaning up of the incident. Mulder then says, 3 species disappear off the planet every day. You wonder how many new ones are being created. We fade back to Newark. There's a cityscape in the distance. The camera heads into the street drain and into the sewers. We get a shot of the water near the sewer grate, and the top half of the body floats up, and his eyes open. The fluke is still alive. Credits.
I think they even made reference to the fact that it's what's the type of creature that can basically grow back a part of its body that's been cut. The implication being that it's just gonna grow back its legs and be fine and continue on. But I mean, this is classic X-Files, isn't it? The idea of the writers can't stand to just lose their villains, so we get a little fake out at the end to know our villain's gonna maybe come back. You know, he's gonna be in your dreams,
right? And I'll give it a pass on that aspect because essentially it is a worm. So, you know, I'll give it a little bit more legitimacy on that aspect where, you know, they can't just let it go.
Yeah. Well, they have certainly set it up well. Like they give us way more detail to actually draw some conclusions from in this episode than another episode, which we won't harp on again.
Yeah.
So to that point, I give it lots of credit, you know, and maybe it's in reaction to Little Green Men that I like this one so much more because there is so much to draw from. But I don't know. Maybe do we delve into final thoughts at this point?
What are your final thoughts, sir?
Well, in general, I really like it. I mean, it's a classic monster of the week, and yet it actually integrates some mythology, which I guess you get to do if you're Chris Carter because it's your show. If it was another writer doing a monster of the week, it's hard to draw in your big hitters, you know, your cigarette smoking man, your Mr. X, those characters. You'd really need to make a special case to bring them in.
Yeah.
But here, it totally makes sense.
Like Young at Heart.
Like Young at Heart. Terrible. But this one, it makes sense to introduce. Great to introduce Mr. X, and I like that they are going to use this case to prop up the idea of bringing back the X-Files. Like when they brought in Deep Throat in certain episodes in season 1, it didn't really make sense for him to come out, but here obviously there's an imperative. They're going to slowly reel back into the idea of the X-Files being reinstated and being the trope that runs the show. Quite like it. As far as the actual episode goes, I think it hangs together well. Like it answers any questions that it doesn't answer all, but it answers the majority of them. There are no glaring plot holes, which is enough to really piss me off. In this one, it holds together quite well. Yeah, is where I stand on it.
Yeah, I think this episode was just like a welcome return to form. Especially after Little Green Men. It's the first monster of the week of season 2, and I think in many ways, for me, well, do I want to commit to this or not?
You bet to say you liked it more than Mythology episode?
No, well, that's a given. But sometimes I kind of prefer it over Squeeze. If you want to compare, not to say that it is indeed a better episode than Squeeze, but I think there are times where this one just hits different for me, and I like it a little bit more. I think the monster definitely is way more memorable for sure. It's interesting, and it seems to, unlike Squeeze, for as much notoriety that episode has and as much credit and acclaim that it deserves, I think this creature has become like one of the hallmark properties over Tooms. This creature is featured on a lot of media for the X-Files. Comics, promos, and even the recent board game box. They used it heavily on that. I think it's telling that this creature made an impact, and I think that's pretty cool.
Didn't get a sequel.
It did not, but that's good, because they're not very good on sequels.
It's true, and I think it would have been hard to do a sequel that wasn't the same episode.
Exactly, yeah.
Like when you have intelligent villains like Tooms,
you can do more.
Pusher, Donnie Fasco, then they get to have a way to up the stakes. But when your villain is essentially
Just a humanoid
a
monster.
humanoid monster
Yeah.
with no real intelligence, seems to be just directed by the usual animalistic instincts, then yeah, it maybe the sequel would be, there's 50 of them, and that would be tricky.
Yeah.
But certainly they've set it up that, this is a threat now. It is going to be replicating itself, and life in New Jersey ain't going to be a picnic.
I'm surprised they didn't come back to this well. Honestly, just looking back at the show. But
well, when you cut your monster in half, that usually signals the end of the monster.
You'd think, sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, despite some of the not great stuff going through the pumper truck tube, it's a little cheesy and really hard to believe.
Oh, and the ambulance driver guy.
Yeah.
That ticks me off. Yeah.
It manages to be a little bit more powerful of an episode, and I think that's in no small part due to Skinner. He gets to put Mulder in check. They've got some good interactions in this episode.
Yep.
And we get to see Mulder and Scully working together, yet still be apart. There's aspects of them coming together and then working apart and hoping to solve this case together, even though they're not always together. So I think that was interesting. Scully performs probably the creepiest autopsy of the entire show. And I still think this is effective all these years later. It's genuinely tense, and that's mostly because of the music. Mark Snow hit it out of the park in that scene.
Yeah, very much. Not the grossest autopsy, though. I mean, Bad Blood, that's
still humorous. I think this one is meant
not
to be
humorous.
100% serious, and it's
Yeah.
probably maybe not grossest, but the scariest autopsy of the show. I think.
I would go for that, sure.
All in all, I think the monster is genuinely freaky and disgusting. Not just because it's a shit monster, but to top it all off, whether it's ridiculous or not, it does tie itself to Chernobyl, which I think gives this episode a little bit more credit. I think they did their job. They play with this science fiction of the mutation and how genetics work to create this being. I think they have their fun with
Spider-Man factor in there, isn't it? Like, he was it's radiation that did it.
He was near the boat, and somehow this thing was made. But, it works.
If I asked for anything, I mean, still fixated on why I dislike Little Green Men so much compared to this one. But I think what it is if there's something for me to draw a conclusion from, I forgive it a lot more. Like, I can extend from what they've given me in Host and go, okay, well, what if this, and maybe I can make sense of this because they've given me some information. Little Green Men didn't give me any information on a lot of things, so I had nothing to go on.
Mm-hmm.
Here, there is a lot to go on and to sort of draw conclusions which make sense for yourself. If I could change anything, it might be the info drop about Chernobyl. I kind of wish they'd brought that up earlier. They could have put it kind of when they're looking at it in the cell.
Okay.
Or shortly thereafter. I've run some tests on it, and turns out it's from Chernobyl. It would have been interesting to then form a picture of our villain going through to the end. And it would have given us more stakes other than, it's going to get loose, and that's... Like, the stakes came a bit late.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I like that. And again, I do like the Chernobyl thing, but yeah, I think you raised a good point where they could have brought it back and addressed it earlier and made it a little bit more investigative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. We had no listener comments this week, and that's all right. Despite 70 people seeing it, that's okay. It is. It's all right.
2 days ago, we needed to.
I know, that's fair, but still.
Are you roasting the host?
I'm roasting the host. I think we're done.
That's the most.
This is the most host roasting you're going to get.
Don't mean to boast.
While we go down to the coast and
see a ghost?
Eat some toast with ghosts. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. There's only so much you can do with this.
With one-word titles?
Yeah. Oh, well.
Well, tune in next week when something happens.
When we deal with blood, another one-word title.
Oh, yeah. But there's enough good stuff there, actually.
Yeah. Well, that is
that
episode. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. That is the episode, The Host. Andrew, if you would like to say goodbye, please do so.
Goodbye. This has been your host, co-host, and tri-host with the most.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilepod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.